Good evening, Vision Recovery. Y'all can be seated. How's everyone doing tonight? Good. I'm glad two people doing all right. But I'm glad you could all be here tonight. I guess I've met everyone, but for those watching online, my name is Nate Reinhardt. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, and I've walked the process for addiction and the beginning steps of self-worth. And right now, I'm working the process of continuing to heal my self-worth and process of honesty, really learning how to stop pretending and actually let God into the places that I've spent years trying to hide. And I get to help lead Vision Recovery here, and I'm really glad that everyone can make it tonight, or you can tune in watching online. And I mean that because not all of us walked in feeling hyped up and super excited. Some of us may have walked in tired. Some of us may have barely made it tonight and debated not coming. So showing up is the first step, and that matters. And every Friday night, this place becomes something intentional. This isn't just something to attend. It's not a place where you have to be fake or be spiritually mature, but this is a place where you can be who you really are and be honest about where you're at in life right now. Because the truth is, most of us already spend enough time during the week pretending. We pretend at work, we pretend in conversations, we pretend at home. We say we're okay when we're actually not. And if we're careful, we'll come to a place like this and we'll do the exact same thing. But like I said, here, you can be honest and open. You don't have to be anything that you're not. I want everyone to show up with honesty, and that honesty begins to allow you to take real steps forward with God. And Vision Recovery exists for that reason. We're here to help people find healing, freedom, and purpose through Christ-centered recovery. And everything we do flows through three things: the promise of redemption, that God still restores; the process of freedom, that healing takes time; and the power of people. We don't do this alone. And we structure the month like that as well. We start with promise, which is tonight, where we focus on truth, and then we move into process, where we slow down and get honest with each other. And then people, where we celebrate what God is doing in everyone's life, because recovery isn't just about gaining information. It's about a transformation that happens from within. So this year, we walked through 3 steps. And step 1, I'm just going to summarize them. I'm not going to list all the steps, but step 1, we said, I can't. Step 2, we said, he can. Step 3, we said, I will let him. And now we're stepping into something deeper. Step 4 says we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Or simply, now I get honest. And it sounds simple, but this is really where it gets difficult, because surrender sounds good. God, I'll give you everything. It feels right and feels spiritual, but step 4 says, all right, God, let's look at everything. This step causes us to look at what's going on inside of us, our thoughts, our patterns, our reactions, the things that we don't talk about often. And that's where the tension shows up, because most of us don't struggle with surrender in theory. We struggle with honesty in reality. We've learned how to manage how we're seen. We've learned how to say the right things. We've learned how to keep certain part of our lives off limits. And somewhere along the way, we got really good at one phrase: I'm fine. And that's where we're going to go tonight. So I'm going to pray again over the message. Father, I thank you again for bringing us all here tonight. You know exactly what each of us walked in carrying and exactly what each of us need. I pray that you would help us to be honest, Lord. Reveal things in our lives that we haven't seen. Areas maybe we've been acting like we're all right, but we're really not. Give us the courage to take our mask off, Lord, to stop pretending, and to let you into those places. Speak to us, Lord, search our hearts, and begin to do what only you can, Father. Amen. All right, step 3 got us to surrender. And step 4 removes the filter. And that sounds like a big shift at first. It doesn't sound like a big shift at first, but it really is, because surrender is something we can say. I'm sorry, let me start over with that. Surrender is something we can say, God, I give you everything. God, I trust you. God, I'm letting go. And we can really genuinely mean it. But step 4 is where God says, all right, well, let's actually look at everything. Let's look at what's going on inside, the thoughts, the patterns, the reactions. And that's really where things begin to get uncomfortable, because it's one thing to surrender your life to God, but it's another thing to be honest about your life with God. And if I had to sum up tonight's message in a sentence, it would be, a lot of us aren't stuck because we won't surrender. A lot of us are stuck because we won't be honest consistently. We've learned how to say something without even thinking it. Someone asks, how are you doing? I'm good. I'm fine. I'm straight. It's automatic, default responses. But if we slowed that down for a second and actually answered honestly, a lot of us, that wouldn't be the case, because fine covers a lot. I'm overwhelmed, but I don't want to get into it. Or I'm struggling mentally, but I don't know how to explain it. Or I'm dealing with the same things again and again, and I'm tired of it. We say fine because it's easier. It's safer. It keeps everything at the surface. Because the moment you stop saying I'm fine, you open the door to something deeper. And deeper means vulnerability. It means exposure. It means you actually have to deal with something that you've been avoiding. And the truth is, we don't just do that to people, we do it to God as well. We bring him filtered prayers, we bring him edited versions of ourselves, we talk about what's safe and avoid what's real, and then we wonder why we feel stuck. So this week, as I was reading 1 Kings 19, and if you're not familiar with the scripture or the Bible in general, I'll just give you the big picture. There's a prophet named Elijah, and God uses him in a powerful way. And right before this moment, Elijah has a huge spiritual victory. He stands against hundreds of false prophets, and he calls on God, and God sends down fire from heaven. Not symbolic fire, but it was actual fire from heaven. It's one of those moments where everyone sees it and everyone knows God is real, and he just showed up. He just proved that he was real. So if you're Elijah, you're thinking, this is the high moment. Everything's about to change in my life. But then everything shifts. The queen threatens his life, and the same man who was just standing boldly in front of hundreds of prophets is now running. He isolates himself. He gets alone. He's exhausted, mentally drained, emotionally overwhelmed. And he finally says, I've had enough, Lord. I can't do this anymore. Just take me. And I want you to really see that, because this isn't someone considered weak. This isn't someone who doesn't believe God. This is someone who just had a very real, powerful encounter with God and still found himself not okay. He had a very, very public victory, but a very private breakdown. And if we're honest, maybe that hits closer to home than we like to admit. Because we know how to look strong, we know how to show up, we know how to function, we know how to keep things moving, but internally we're tired, overwhelmed, carrying things we haven't fully processed. And here's what stands out to me about Elijah. He didn't pretend. He didn't say, I'm good. He didn't try to sound strong. He didn't clean it up. He told the truth. He said, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed. And God didn't shut him down for that. God met him there. And that is what step 4 is about. It's about removing the filter, getting honest, and saying, I'm not fine. It's not for attention or sympathy, but because truth is where healing begins. And tonight, that's where we're going to start. So point one is the lie of, I thought I'd be different by now. Elijah just saw God move and still found himself in a dark place. And let that sit for a second, because we just talked about what happened right before this. Fire from heaven, God showing up in a way that nobody could deny. A moment where everything felt clear. And then the next chapter, he's running, afraid, exhausted, overwhelmed. And if you don't slow down to see where he was, then you'll miss it, because it doesn't make sense at first. You would expect confidence, momentum. You would expect him to be hyped up from that experience. But instead, he's overwhelmed by this threat. And a lot of us can relate, because we had expectations when we came to God, whether we realize it or not. We had a moment, maybe at an altar, maybe in your room, and it was real. You meant it. You said, God, I'm done. God, I need you. But somewhere in that moment, there was an expectation attached to it. Maybe it was, I thought I'd be different by now, or I thought the struggle would stop, or my mind would be different, or the cravings would go away. And then time passed and you realized you're still dealing with those same things. You still have thoughts you don't like, and still feel things you don't understand fully. And now there's tension, because on one side, you know God's real, but on the other side, you're still struggling. And if nobody explains that, you start asking the wrong questions. Did I do something wrong? Was my surrender not real? Is my faith not genuine? And that's where discouragement can set in. Not because God failed, but because our expectations didn't match the process. And I'll be real with you. When I came to God in 2019, it was very real. I meant it. I was done living the way that I've been living life for however old I was. I'm not going to share that. But here's what I didn't expect. I didn't expect to still battle mentally like I still do today. I didn't expect to deal with the same thinking in ways. I didn't expect there to still be things that needed to be worked out, and it would take years and years to do so. And I remember thinking, why am I still dealing with this? I thought I was past this. And if I wasn't careful, I started to feel like I was failing. But what I've come to understand is salvation is a moment, but healing is a process. Salvation happens instantly. You turn to God, you believe in him, you surrender, you repent, you are made new in him. That part is real. But healing is where God starts working through everything that's been built up over the years. Your thinking, your habits, your wounds, your patterns, and that does not happen overnight. So when it doesn't happen instantly, we do start to think something is wrong. But what if nothing's wrong with you? What if you're not failing? What if you're actually in the process right now? Because look at Elijah. He just saw God move and he still found himself overwhelmed. That doesn't mean God wasn't working. It means that there was still something in him that needed attention. And that's where this step comes in. This is where we stop pretending that everything's fine and start getting honest about what's still underneath. Not to shame ourselves, not to tear ourselves down, but to finally deal with what hasn't been dealt with. Because you can't heal what you won't face. You may have expected instant change, but God is working through a process. You expected everything to disappear, but God is transforming things layer by layer. And if you can understand that, it will change how you see your struggle. Instead of saying, I must be failing, you can say, God is still working. Or instead of saying, I should be through this by now, you can say, God is walking me through this in his own timing. And that shift matters because it keeps you from quitting in the middle of the process. And tonight, maybe some of you needed to hear that. You're not crazy. You're not alone. You're not behind. You're in process. And this step is where that process gets honest. So if point one shows us that we're still in process, Point 2 shows us why we stay stuck in it. And point 2 is, I'm fine, is the most dangerous lie. We've learned how to function behind that filter. And I don't just mean we hide things sometimes. I mean, we've learned how to live like that, and it is automatic now in certain ways. We know how to show up, carry conversations. We know how to keep things going. And we turn to the phrases, I'm good, I'm fine. And if we're being honest, sometimes we truly believe it, because we've said it so many times, it becomes default. But if you slow down and really check what's going on internally, for a lot of us, that is not true. We say we're good, but we're struggling, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally. And sometimes deeper than all that, we can just feel disconnected. But none of that gets said because we've learned how to keep everything at surface level. And here's where this becomes dangerous. It's not just that we're hiding, it's that we start believing it. We convince ourselves that we're okay when we're not. So now fine isn't just something we say, it becomes a cover. And I like how it says it in the Recovery Alive handbook. It says frustrated, insecure, neurotic, emotional, FINE. But instead of dealing with that, we just keep moving. Because the moment you slow down, the moment you tell the truth, now it gets real. Now you've got to face something, you've got to deal with something, so we avoid it. And we don't do that with just people. Like I said, we do it with God too. We pray like we're fine, we talk like everything's under control, we try to say the right things, but we don't say the real things. And we wonder why we feel distant. But you can't be close to God while you're still hiding from him. And going back to Elijah's story, God shows up. He shows up to him and he shows up to him in a cave, and he asks him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Now, God already knew. He wasn't asking him for information. He was inviting honesty. He was giving Elijah a chance to say what was really going on, to stop running, to put words to it. And Elijah tells the truth, not cleaned up, not spiritualized, just honest. And that matters because that's where things begin to shift. And let me say it like this: God will ask you questions, not because he doesn't know, but because you need to say it. Because what stays unspoken will stay in control. And that's why this lie is dangerous. It keeps everything hidden. It keeps you from dealing with what's really underneath. It keeps you stuck. And we don't lie to others first. We lie to ourselves. I'm good. I got it. It's not that bad. Other people are worse. And the longer you say things like that, the more you begin to believe that. And the more you believe it, the longer you'll stay in it. And this is where what Jesus says comes in. He says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Not the edited version, not the comfortable version, the truth. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but that is where freedom begins, because you can't be free from something that you won't be honest about. And that's what this step invites us into: honesty, real, uncomfortable, freeing honesty. Because until you can say I'm not fine, then you'll never experience what it means to actually be healed. So if point 2 showed us we hide behind a filter, point 3 shows us what that produces: silence. Silence keeps you stuck, is point 3. And silence feels safe. Like, if I don't say it, I don't have to deal with it. If I don't bring it up, I can keep moving. So we stay quiet. We don't say what we're feeling. We don't deal with what bothers us. We don't admit what's really going on internally. And on the surface, it looks like we're handling life and being successful and doing all the things, but underneath, something is growing. Because silence isn't neutral. Silence is where things grow. Things don't disappear, they develop there. They take root, they get stronger, they cause bitterness, resentment, all kinds of different things. And over time, what you won't speak starts shaping how you live. So now it shows up in trust issues, communication breakdowns, frustration, resentment. And we don't always connect it back to the silence. We just think something's off. But underneath it, there's something we never dealt with, something we never said. And what stays hidden will stay powerful. Not because it's stronger than you, but because it's unchallenged. You haven't brought it to the light. And as long as it stays hidden, it keeps its power. Step 4 is where we stop letting things stay buried. We start bringing them to the light, not to shame ourselves, but to finally deal with what's been quietly controlling us. And this is where Elijah's story comes back in. After he says, I've had enough, God doesn't show up and shame him. He doesn't say, get it together. God meets him in that place. He lets him rest. He gives him food. He takes care of him. Before anything else, God meets him where he is. And this is what we have to understand. God is not waiting for you to fix yourself before he meets you. He meets you right in the middle of where you actually are. But don't miss that God met Elijah when Elijah was honest. Not when he was pretending, not when he was strong or trying to look strong. When he said, I've had enough. That's where God met him. So the truth is, God doesn't meet you where you pretend to be. He meets you where you're honest. And for some of us, maybe that's where we're disconnected. We've been bringing the I'm fine version of ourselves to God, the cleaned up version, the manageable version. And God's saying, I don't want a version of you. I want the real one. Because that's the version he can actually work with. And God doesn't reveal things in our lives to shame you. I know I've said that in the past. He reveals them to restore you. He's not exposing you to push you away. He's exposing things so that he can heal them. So when God puts his finger on something in your life, it's not rejection. It's an invitation to draw near. An invitation into healing, into deeper freedom than you've ever known, into something better. So tonight, we're not trying harder. It's not about fixing everything at once. It's about being honest. Honest about what's been hidden or avoided, or honest about what's really going on the inside. Because the moment you bring something into the light, it starts to lose its power. And the moment you start pretending, God can begin restoring. So tonight, like I said, this is not about performance, but it's about being honest. And for some of you, you already know what that looks like. There's something you've been carrying, something you've been avoiding, something you've kept silent. And tonight, God is inviting you to bring it into the light. So as we slow down and prepare to worship to one more song, I want to invite you to sit with a question. Where am I not fine? Not what other people think, not the surface level stuff, but where are you really at? What's going on inside of you? Because you can look like you got it all together, but still be carrying something heavy. My guess is you probably already know what it is. But God definitely knows what it is. You're not informing him. He's been waiting for you to be honest about it. So tonight, you can worship in your seats. You can come to the altar. You can go wherever you want to. But tonight is not about trying to perform or fix anything, but being honest. Maybe it sounds like, God, I'm not okay. God, I've been struggling. God, I've been pretending. That's where it starts. So as this video plays, I want to invite you to lean in. Talk to God. Be real with him. Because the moment you stop pretending is the moment that God begins restoring. So right now, let's just be honest and let God meet you there. Let's worship together.